We've got a lot to talk about on today's show, but I want to open up by looking at the Super Bowl through a Falcons lens, which was the entire halftime show were almost all Atlanta rappers, and Kyle Shanahan, yet again, pissing down his leg, blowing a second half lead. So let me know, did you want Kyle Shanahan to win? I was texting with one of my friends, and he was rooting against the Niners just because he didn't want to see Shanahan win a Super Bowl. And I was curious if he was the only one or if everyone is kind of feeling that way. So let me know down below in the comment section. What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Falcons Today. Coming up on today's show, we will talk about a potential Haason Reddick trade after a pretty big report came out over the weekend that the Eagles have given their star pass rusher permission to seek a trade. And then we're going to wrap up the show by looking at the top free agents from the Chiefs and the 49ers and see if any of them would be good fits in ATL. But let's start with Haason Reddick. So the Eagles granted Reddick permission to seek a trade according to Ian Rapoport. And when I saw that notification, I was blown away. That was not on my bingo sheet for Super Bowl week, which is always filled with a couple of big news and rumor story items, and that was definitely one of them. But I guess you can kind of see how they got to this spot, because Haason Reddick came home to Philadelphia after some years in Arizona, 1 year in Carolina, signed a pretty team-friendly 3-year, $45 million contract, which all he's done is put back-to-back 10-plus sack seasons on the board. He turns 30 years old in September, and to me, this just screams new contract issues, right? Haason Reddick signed a pretty lucrative $45 million contract. I'm not going to act like that's no money, but for his performance over the last 2 years, you could say it's a dramatic underpay, which credit to Philadelphia for finding a great player and getting a great contract. But now I think Haason Reddick is looking for a couple extra commas in his bank account. And 3 years, $45 million for a guy that's put up 11 sacks and 16 sacks the last 2 seasons in Philly. And over the last 4 years, all double-digit sack seasons. And if you go back to 2020 to present, he is actually 4th in total sacks. I bet you didn't think Trey Hendrickson and Haason Reddick would be 3rd and 4th in total sacks since 2020. So he has been an extremely productive pass rusher for Philly. And my guess is Haason Reddick and his agent went to the Eagles, said, hey, I want a new deal. I want an extension. I've got 1 year left on my current contract. And let's be honest, this is an absolute bargain deal for you guys. And the Eagles and them maybe tried to brokerage a deal, but ultimately couldn't figure something out. So Philly probably told Reddick and his agent, you know what? We're going to give you permission to seek a trade. You can go talk to other teams. If you get a better offer than what we're offering, then we can try and orchestrate a trade. But you may find that you're not getting a better offer elsewhere. And so then you'll come back and sign the offer that we have on the table for you. That's just my personal guess as to what is going on behind the scenes here. So now let's talk about, well, what if Haason Reddick and his agent go to Atlanta, talk to Terry Fontenot, because the Falcons have a dire need at outside linebacker. Bud Dupree is a free agent, and even if the Falcons did bring him back, is anyone really excited for another season of old man Dupree? Not I. Lorenzo Carter? No. He was more or less, I wouldn't say bench, that's a bit harsh, but he didn't have any great big impact plays down the stretch towards the end of the season. You have Malone, a 3rd-round pick from a year ago. There's just not a lot of great options here. Now, this is a trade idea I came up with, and I kind of want to just toss it out there and see what people think about it. Falcons get Haason Reddick. They also get the Eagles' 1st-round pick this year, selection number 22, and a 3rd-round pick this year from Philly, and the Eagles get the 8th overall pick in the draft. Parting ways with the top 10 pick is definitely something you do not do lightly, but getting a 1st-rounder back, 22nd, so you're moving from 8 to 22, and because you moved back 14 spots, you pick up Haason Reddick and a 3rd-rounder. I would consider this. Let me know what you think. Would you do this trade? I understand moving out from a top 10 pick is not something people are dying to do. But getting Haason Reddick, getting a 22nd overall pick, and a 3rd for moving back 14 spots, that's at least a little bit intriguing, you got to admit. I personally, though, I know I came up with the idea, but I would stick at number 8 mostly because of the age factor with Haason Reddick. If he was a few years younger, and I hate to be, Creed Brandon and be ageist here, but if Haason Reddick wasn't turning 30 in September and he was turning 26 or 27, then I would definitely play ball on, you know what? The NFL draft is always this fugazi, right? Where you think that every single pick is going to be a Pro Bowl player. But the reality is, it's a crapshoot. So yes, when you have a first-round pick and it's a top 10 pick, you think of it as a surefire thing. And GMs have to make those picks count. But just go look at a few drafts ago. You don't have to go back very far, and you'll be surprised how many misses there are in round one. So when a proven player is on the board, this is not always the popular opinion, but I'm a lot of times inclined to go with the proven player rather than the lottery ticket, who might be as good as that player, might even be better than that player, but there's a good chance they could be much worse than that player. So I would stick at 8, but if Atlanta was closer to like 11 or 12, ooh, I'd be intrigued. Now, before we get on to the rest of today's show, I do want to say thank you to all of our subscribers. We crossed 19,000 subscribers here on the channel over the weekend, and now we're marching to 20K. So if you have not locked yourself in for the best Falcons YouTube coverage all offseason long, hit the sub button right now. Now let's talk Super Bowl free agents to wrap up today's show, because we had an exhilarating, I'm going to say exhilarating, I thought it was a good game. I did think it was a good game. Well officiated, no big controversies after the game, so that always feels like a nice win. But we've got some free agents from the Chiefs and the 49ers to look at here. Let's start with the winners, the Kansas City Chiefs. Running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Imagine saying, I don't want to trade a first. You can get a running back in the first round. Look what happened to CEH, but whatever. Wide receiver Mecole Hardman. Offensive tackle Donovan Smith. Some defensive linemen, Chris Jones, Mike Danna, Derrick Nnadi. Linebackers Willie Gay Jr., Drue Tranquill. Cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, and safety Mike Edwards. Now, of those 10 names right there, I would say by far Chris Jones is the most appealing of the bunch. Atlanta's got a very similar player in Grady Jarrett, who, of course, is not the same as Chris Jones, but he's not too far off from it. So I don't think the Falcons are going to be heavily pursuing Chris Jones. They've got their star interior defensive lineman. I think they want to try and find some edge rushers to get after the quarterback, but who knows? Maybe the Falcons go, we've had our heart set on Chris Jones this whole time. Pairing him up with Grady Jarrett would make the best 1-2 punch on the inside, which it definitely would. I don't think the Falcons ultimately are going to land Chris Jones, though. Now, if you're curious what it could cost, well, Spotrac comes out with contract projections based on stats, age, and other similar players and what they got. And their computer cooked up a 3-year, $85 million contract worth $28.4 million a season, which would make him the second highest paid DT behind Aaron Donald. Now, an under-the-radar candidate to watch for is Mecole Hardman, right? The guy who won the Super Bowl for the Chiefs, caught the game-winning touchdown in overtime. And Hardman, I'm going to put him under the radar mostly because the Falcons have one wide receiver. It's the Pulp Fiction meme, right? It's just looking around like it's just Drake London. So every single wide receiver is going to be on my radar, because when you have one returning wide receiver on your roster, you have a lot of work to do. So no stone should be left unturned. Now, we're going to talk about the 49ers free agents next up on the show. But really quickly, I want to tell you all about an awesome deal going on with our friends over at Fanatics. You can get this Falcons hat and t-shirt, a twofer, on sale. You're not going to find better deals than this right now. So if you want to replenish your Falcons wardrobe, my lovely girlfriend, her mom got me all this Falcon swag for Christmas. So if you want to dress in style, get this awesome Falcons t-shirt and hat combo on sale when you use our exclusive link right here, chatsports.com/ATL combo. I put all that information, though, in the comments and description of today's video. Let's talk about the Niners. Here are some of their marquee free agents. Sam Darnold, Chris Conley, awesome special teamer. Charlie Werner, tight end. John Feliciano, Ben Batch, some offensive linemen. On the defensive line, Chase Young, Randy Gregory, Javon Kinlaw, Kevin Gaines. Some very notable names right there. Linebacker Demetrius Flanagan Fowles as well. But I would say the most noteworthy name, would be Chase Young, right? The 2020 NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year. And then there was a big fall off. Unfortunately, tore his ACL in 2021. Didn't even really get back to close to full speed in 2022. Then he comes back 2 years removed in 2023. So-so with the Commanders. Then he got traded over to San Francisco, where I think he played a lot better to end the year. For me, with Chase Young, it's an effort thing. I have questions, right? What took the rehab so long that practically made him miss the second half of 2022 or second half of 2021 and most, if not all, of 2022? I had heard some rumblings of there were concerns over the lack of effort during his rehab process. So that was red flag number one for me. Red flag number two was, why did every single team, it appeared, value Montez Sweat higher than Chase Young at the NFL trade deadline? If I told you guys in August, Chase Young goes for a third and Montez Sweat goes for a second, you all laugh at me in the comment section. So I do wonder, what do all the GMs know that we don't know, that they only look at Chase Young as a third when he was the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year just a few short seasons ago? That was red flag number two. And then red flag number three was the NFC Championship game when he just pulled up and let Jahmyr Gibbs run into the end zone. There have been some major concerns and call-outs over his lack of effort in the run game. So those three concerns right there, they make me very weary. I can see the half-glass full side of Chase Young's playing style in his career, but I don't want to be the team that backs up the truck and gives him a huge contract only to regret it a season later. Now, an under-the-radar candidate to watch for is Randy Gregory. Remember, he was with the Dallas Cowboys. He could not stay on the field ever. I don't think he's never played all 16 games, I believe. So, or 17 now, I guess. But anyway, he couldn't stay on the field for a variety of issues, mostly running into NFL rules, but all that stuff is kind of brushed aside. Then he went to Denver, signed a 5-year contract. He was cut after a season and a quarter up in Mile High. Then he goes and gets traded over to the 49ers, actually, about to get cut. And then they trade to the Niners. And he did a good job of being a rotational edge rusher for them. So I think Randy Gregory may fit that mold of, hey, what have we learned from Terry Fontenot the last couple of years? He has not inked that marquee free agent pass rusher. And maybe that's because there haven't been any good ones he deemed worthy of a good contract and didn't want to pay someone just for the sake of paying someone. Or maybe he likes finding veteran edge rushers on cheap one-year contracts and trying to find the long-term solution in the draft. So Randy Gregory could be an option where the Atlanta Falcons go, listen, we're not going to be able to afford Brian Burns or Josh Allen, or those guys are going back to their teams anyway. So instead of overpaying that next guy, that next tier of edge rushers, let's go with the Randy Gregory, use him as our Bud Dupree for this season, and let's draft an edge rusher and hope that we can find our long-term solution at pass rusher through the draft, and Gregory can kind of just be a placeholder and a rotation guy for 2024. But who do you want to sign from the Chiefs or the 49ers? Of the 20 guys we just looked at, there's some other ones as well, but I mostly just went with the top 10 names for each team. Let me know which player you would love to see the Atlanta Falcons sign. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's show. I really appreciate everyone for taking time out of their Monday to come hang out with us here at Falcons Today. We will sign off and catch up later.